The UGF flagship's forward shields buckled under the onslaught of plasma torpedoes, the hull fracturing like an egg. Captain Scott Boyd gripped the armrests of his command chair, knuckles white, as he watched in horror while the Komar warships effortlessly shredded humanity's most advanced vessels. Their firepower and technology far outclassed anything the United Galactic Fleet could muster. In mere minutes, the once mighty human armada lay in ruins, reduced to a smattering of crippled ships venting atmosphere and debris. "Get me firing solutions on those cruisers!" Scott barked at the weapons officer, desperation edging into his voice. The officer shook her head, sweat beading on her forehead. "Weapons are down, sir. That last hit took out our forward pulse cannons." On the scanners, Scott watched helplessly as the Komar ships swooped in like vultures to pick off the straggling human vessels. Escape pods erupted from the flanks of dying ships, only to be mercilessly shot down by precision alien lasers. They were showing no mercy, no quarter given. This was no battle. It was slaughter. The comm crackled, and a frantic voice blared through the smoke-filled bridge. "Captain Boyd, this is General Vorian. The fleet, it's lost. The Komar have superior numbers and firepower. We grossly underestimated their capabilities." Scott felt his blood run cold at the normally unflappable general's panicked tone. "What are your orders, sir?" "Retreat, Captain. Pull back any ship still capable of limping away. We must regroup and—" Static drowned out the general's next words. "Komar invasion imminent. Fall back to Epsilon Eridani and await further orders. Vorian out." As the communication cut, Scott silently surveyed the remnants of his once proud fleet being systematically obliterated by the rampaging Komar. Just days ago, Earth Command had crowed about the invincibility of the human armada and boasted of certain victory against the primitive aliens. How wrong they had been. Rumors swirled of the Komar reverse engineering advanced alien technology, maybe even allying with some mysterious elder race. It was the only explanation for their sudden, overwhelming advantage. Slamming a fist on the arm of his chair, Scott made a vow. He would undertake any mission, court any risk, sacrifice anything to uncover the secret behind the Komar's terrifying new power. For he realized with cold certainty that if he failed in this, it wouldn't just mean the loss of the fleet or the war. It could mean the end of the human race itself. As the battered human ships limped through the void, a chime sounded on the bridge of Captain Scott Boyd's vessel. He turned to the comm officer. "Report." "Sir, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from an unknown source. They claim to have critical intelligence on the Komar's tech advantage." Scott frowned. After the crushing defeat, any lead was worth pursuing. But the timing and secrecy set off alarms in his head. "Trace it." "No good, sir. Signals bouncing off a dozen relays. Whoever they are, they're damn good at covering their tracks." The message played, the voice distorted. "Captain Boyd, I have information that could change the course of the war. Meet me at these coordinates near the Komar border. Come alone." Scott weighed his options. It screamed trap. But what choice did they have? The Komar would roll over them unless they found a weakness to exploit. He hailed General Vorian over a secure channel. "Sir, I need permission to take a team to meet an asset." "Asset? What asset?" "Unknown, sir. But they claim to have intel on the Komar's tech." "Absolutely not. The fleet is in full retreat, and you want to go off on a wild goose chase." Scott took a breath. "General, with respect, what do we have to lose? We just had our asses handed to us. Unless we uncover something we can use against them, this war is as good as over." Vorian was silent for a long moment. "Fine, but you keep it small and quiet. Anything goes wrong, I'll disavow knowledge of your actions." "Understood." "Yes, sir, Boyd out." Scott assembled his team, the best of the best. If this was a trap, he'd make the Komar regret it. As they approached the coordinates, the sensor officer called out, "Sir, I'm detecting a ship in orbit. Looks like a Komar scout." Scott switched to tactical view, studying the sleek alien craft. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. "Red alert. Raise shields. If this is an ambush, let's not make it easy for them." He turned to comms. "Hail them." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the angular features of a Komar. Scott spoke first. "This is Captain Boyd of the UGF. You have one chance to explain why I shouldn't blow you out of the sky." To his surprise, the Komar raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "Captain, I am Commander Zorux. I am the one who contacted you. I mean you no harm." "Why should I believe you?" "Because I am about to send you the schematics of our most advanced fighter." Zorux typed a command and Scott's console lit up with incoming data. The engineer studied the file, her eyes widening. "Sir, this is legitimate. With these plans, we could upgrade our own birds, maybe stand a chance against them." Scott turned back to Zorux, eyes narrowed. "Why are you helping us? What's in it for you?" The Komar looked away. "Because I no longer believe in what my kind are doing. This war, the slaughter, the subjugation, I can't be a part of it anymore. I want asylum, a new life, and there are more like me. We could be valuable allies." Scott searched the alien's face for any sign of deceit. He found none. "What are you proposing?" "Come down to the surface. I have a hidden base where those loyal to me have been gathering. I'll tell you everything I know about Komar operations, fleet movements, and I know the location of the shipyard that builds our dreadnoughts. Destroy it, and you cripple our ability to make war." Scott chewed his lip. It was a lot to take in, a lot to risk trusting, but the potential payoff? A proximity alert blared. The sensor officer paled. "Sir, multiple warp signatures. A Komar battle group just dropped out of FTL. They're heading right for us." Scott pounded a fist on his armrest. He had to make a decision now. Trust Zorux and take out the shipyard, striking a blow against the Komar and maybe sparking a rebellion, or bug out with the intel they had, leaving the rebels to die. He looked at Zorux, then at the scans showing the approaching enemy ships. The next few seconds would determine if humanity had any hope of survival. Scott's eyes darted between Zorux and the sensor readouts. The Komar battle group closed in fast. Time was up. "Fuck it! We're going in!" Scott growled. He turned to Zorux. "This better not be bullshit or I'll space you myself." Zorux nodded grimly. "I understand, Captain. My life for my people's freedom." Scott barked orders rapid fire. "Hansen, right. Gear up. We hit that shipyard hard and fast." The strike team assembled in minutes. Human commandos strapped on jet black combat armor while Zorux's Komar rebels donned their own sleek battle suits. They armed themselves with a hodgepodge of advanced weaponry, plasma rifles, railguns, and exotic Komar energy weapons Scott had never seen before. "Stealth systems engaged," the helmsman called out. "Approaching defensive perimeter." Scott gripped the command chair. "Zorux, those codes better work." The Komar tapped furiously at a console. Tense seconds ticked by. "We're through," Zorux said. "They didn't detect us." Relief washed over Scott. Maybe this crazy plan had a chance after all. The shipyard loomed ahead, a massive complex of sprawling hangars and foundries. Zorux pointed out key targets on the tactical display. "Control center here, reactor core there. Hit those and the whole facility goes down." Scott nodded to Hansen and Wright. "You heard the man. Split up and hit him hard." The teams piled into assault shuttles. As the bay doors opened, Scott saw the hulking shapes of half-built Komar dreadnoughts. A chill ran down his spine. If they failed here, those monsters would be unleashed on human worlds. "Go, go, go!" Scott yelled. The shuttles screamed towards the shipyard. Alarms blared as they penetrated the perimeter. Komar security forces scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The shuttles slammed into access ports, disgorging teams of heavily armed boarders. Scott hit the deck running, plasma bolts sizzling past. All around, firefights erupted as the strike force fanned out. "Hansen, take your team and secure that control center," Scott ordered. "Right, with me. We're hitting the reactor." They fought their way deeper into the facility. The Komar were caught off guard, but recovering fast. Reinforcements poured in from all sides. Scott's team stacked up outside the reactor chamber. Wright placed breaching charges on the door. A fire in the hole! The door blew inward. Scott's team surged through the gap, guns blazing. Komar technicians fell in sprays of purple blood. Plant those charges, Scott yelled. We don't have much time. As Wright's team rigged the reactor to blow, Scott's comm crackled. Captain, we've got trouble, Hansen's voice came through. A Komar fleet just dropped out of warp. They're on to us. Scott cursed. How long till that virus is uploaded? 2 minutes. We're evacuating non-combatants now. Make it happen. We're about to light this place up. Alarms wailed throughout the facility. The Komar were fully alerted now. Waves of defenders swarmed towards the human positions. Charges set, Wright called out. Ready to blow this popsicle stand. Do it, Scott ordered. All teams fall back to extraction points, double time. The reactor detonation rocked the entire shipyard. Secondary explosions chain-reacted through the facility. Gouts of flame erupted from ruptured fuel lines. Scott's team fought a running battle back to their shuttle. Zorux and his rebels covered their flanks, buying precious seconds with their lives. They reached the shuttle bay to find it swarming with Komar troops. Scott saw Zorux fall, cut down by a hail of plasma fire. Go! The dying Komar shouted. Finish what we started! Scott hesitated for a split second, then sprinted for his shuttle. They lifted off under heavy fire, hull plating scarred by near misses. As they punched free of the shipyard's gravitational pull, Scott looked back. The entire complex was engulfed in a titanic fireball. Years of Komar shipbuilding capability reduced to atoms in an instant. They'd struck a telling blow, but the cost had been immense. Scott's shoulders sagged as he surveyed the battered remnants of his strike team. A new war had begun, one of shadows and desperate gambles. Scott knew the Komar would retaliate brutally for this, but for the first time since that disastrous fleet battle, a tiny spark of hope flickered in his chest. Scott's battered vessel limped through the swirling gases of the Solarian Nebula, its hull scorched and pitted from the brutal escape. As they approached the rendezvous coordinates, a ragtag fleet of human ships materialized from the cosmic haze. Captain, we're being hailed, the comms officer reported. On screen, Scott ordered, his voice hoarse from shouting commands during their frantic flight. General Vorian's weathered face filled the viewscreen. His eyes widened as he took in the sorry state of Scott's crew. My God, Boyd, what the hell happened out there? Scott recounted their strike on the Komar shipyard, his words clipped and precise. As he detailed their losses, Vorian's expression cycled through shock, grief, and finally, a glimmer of hope. You struck a real blow, Captain, Vorian said. It won't win us the war, but it's bought us time. Report to my flagship for debrief. Hours later, Scott stood before a table of grim-faced admirals and generals. Tactical displays flickered, showing the stolen Komar fighter schematics. Gentlemen, Vorian began, Captain Boyd's team has given us an opportunity. We can't match the Komar in open battle, but these stealth fighters give us an edge. A balding admiral leaned forward. What are you proposing, General? Hit and run, Vorian replied. We form an elite unit to strike deep behind enemy lines, disrupt their supply chains, knock out comm relays, sow chaos in their ranks. Murmurs of approval rippled through the room. Vorian turned to Scott. Boyd, I want you to oversee the operation. Scott shook his head. With respect, sir, I'm needed on the front lines, but I have someone perfect for the job. He nodded to Jake Hansen, who stood at attention nearby. Commander Hansen, he's got the skills and the guts for this kind of mission. Vorian considered for a moment, then nodded. Very well. Hansen, you'll lead our new strike force. We're calling it Nemesis. Over the next weeks, Strike Force Nemesis cut a swath of destruction through Komar territory. Hansen's pilots struck like ghosts, appearing from nowhere to obliterate vital installations before vanishing into the void. Scott watched the incoming reports with a mix of pride and concern. Each successful raid pushed the envelope further, testing the limits of their stolen tech and their pilots' endurance. Meanwhile, the human shipyards worked overtime. New vessels took shape, their hulls jam-packed with reverse-engineered Komar weaponry. In simulators across the fleet, crews drilled relentlessly, pushing themselves to master alien systems that still felt foreign in their hands. Scott paced the bridge of his newly christened flagship, the Defiant. A chime from his comm unit broke his reverie. "Captain," his XO reported, "we're receiving a coded transmission from our Komar contacts." Scott's blood ran cold as he decrypted the message. The Komar had sniffed out Nemesis's attack pattern. They were laying a trap with their most ruthless commander at its head. He thumped his hand on the comm panel. "Get me General Vorian, now." Vorian's face appeared, etched with fatigue. "What is it, Boyd?" "Sir, Strike Force Nemesis is walking into an ambush. We need to mount a rescue op immediately." "Out of the question," Vorian snapped. "We can't risk—" Scott cut him off. "With all due respect, General, those men are out there because of us. I'm not abandoning them." Vorian's eyes narrowed. "And how do you propose to pull this off?" "Give me Wright and what's left of my old crew. We'll hit them hard and fast, extract Nemesis before the Komar know what hit them." "You're out of your mind, Boyd," Vorian growled. But after a long moment, he nodded. "Do it. But if this goes sideways, it's on your head." Scott assembled his team and laid out the plan. They would use the Defiant's experimental slipstream drive to reach the Komar ambush point ahead of Nemesis. As they dropped out of slipstream, the massive Komar station loomed before them. Scott barked orders, and the Defiant's guns roared to life. The station's shields flared under the assault, caught completely off guard. "Sir," Wright called out, "Strike Force Nemesis just arrived." Scott gritted his teeth. "All ships, concentrate fire on their defensive grid. Clear a path for our birds to get out of there." The space around the station erupted in chaos as human and Komar ships clashed. Scott's strike team fought tooth and nail to reach the stranded Nemesis pilots. Just as victory seemed within reach, alarms blared across the Defiant's bridge. "Multiple signatures dropping out of stealth," the sensor officer shouted. "It's a Komar battle group." Scott's heart sank as he saw the swarm of enemy ships boxing them in. They were trapped.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.